Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. And welcome to the Movies TV Mad podcast. Remember, if you're watching the live premiere, I'm watching it alongside you. If you make a comment, I'll respond to it. If you have a question, I will answer it. So yes, welcome to the podcast. There's a few things I want to discuss today. But first I want to say this. Anyone who's known me for an amount of time via my social media platforms knows my disillusionment and disheartenment with the modern day entertainment industry. It really hits me and strikes me when I'm watching something from the past. A Ratatouille, a 24, a Smallville, a Superman the movie, whatever. I'm sitting there and enjoying it and I'm thinking, shit, what's happened today is depressing. When you compare the past with the present, it is depressing. Is it my age? Maybe it's not the modern day industry that's the problem. Maybe I'm the problem. And I don't want to deny that I'm not some old dude who says, it was a lot better in my day. Maybe that's it. Maybe. But still, this is my view, that the modern day entertainment industry attacks its own consumer. Only yesterday I was reading an interview with the young woman who plays the main female in the new Game of Thrones series, House of Dragons. She was talking about her being put up against another actress on the show by the fans. And she said what they always say, mostly male fans. Because it's the male fans that are a problem. Why are you even talking about this? Why are you mentioning what fans are doing? We are the customer. The customer's always right. You don't like it, it's tough. When I was serving ham behind the deli, they used to fucking annoy me when they said, ooh, I want lean ham. What's that? A slice of bread? I wanted to thump the crap out of them, but I couldn't because they were the customer. This is where we are now. We have the talent, using the terms talent loosely, attacking people, directors, attacking the customer. You know, it's ridiculous. This is not how you run a consumer-based industry. But my disillusionment, if it was just that, I could live with it. But it's the depressing comparison in quality. We used to have an industry with soul and depth and magic and people who really knew how to create an illusion and a great story. I've started watching my Christmas movies. You know, Home Alone 2 is a personal favourite of mine, and you watch the love and the soul that was put into that movie. It's such a simple film, and the first one, he loses his parents, not literally, but they vanish, they go off on holiday, or they leave him at home on his own right, depending on what film you're watching. And it's fun, and it has charm, and it puts faith in a child. It says, the moral of Home Alone is don't underestimate children. How many movies today even represent children in the movies? And when they do, they represent them fucking badly. And this is where we are in the industry. They don't care about giving you a great illusion. It's about the hatred and propaganda they want to push. The reason they're replacing, white iconic characters with people of colour isn't because they're interested in representation and inclusion, and it's not real representation and inclusion because all those people have Hollywood DNA. And if you just came out, if you just got on a plane from Brixton and you wanted to be the new Superman and they gave you a DNA test at the gates of Hollywood, you ain't going to get that role because you don't have the same DNA as them. That's the point I'm making. So now we're at war. The fans are at war with the people we should be looking up to. When I was a kid, I looked up to directors. I didn't know their political opinions. And if they hated me because I was a boy or a man, it didn't matter because I didn't know they hated me. Because you can't publicly state that you hate your consumer. These people think they're actually clever when they're talking about politics. They don't actually understand the nuances of politics. They just talk with their propaganda and the hatred. This is not what entertainment should be. This is not why entertainment was created. We're supposed to enjoy ourselves and we're supposed to love you for it. You don't love us and we don't love you because you're not entertainers, you're political extremists, you're propaganda merchants. And this is part of my disillusionment with the industry today. It's everywhere. I have opted out on most modern day entertainment. Right now, I may have mentioned it before, I've definitely mentioned it a multitude of times every day, that I'm rewatching 24. Before that, I was rewatching Quantum Leap. We have a bit of a Quantum Leap scoop about the revival. We'll get into it. Original star Scott Bakula has made a statement about his lack of involvement in the series. It's quite controversial. We'll get into it. And that's part of my disillusionment today as well. But it's everywhere. We're being attacked by all corners of this industry. This is an industry that's, that has organised crime within it. Murders, rapes, molestations, child abuse. And that goes back to the fucking Wizard of Oz movie. This is a corrupt industry. And I'm not saying everyone in the industry is guilty of these things. There's about 10% of good people in this industry that believe in still entertaining you, but it's not enough. It's been taken over by a hateful movement of people, and it's horrible. And when you watch something good from your childhood or your past or recent past, from the noughties in the case of 24, it is depressing, because you saw what the motivations of the people making this stuff in the past. I was thinking yesterday, how the hell did the cast and crew of 24 make 24 episodes of that show? It's a miracle. It's an amazing achievement, because they cared what they were giving us, the consumer and the customer, the fans. It's not about that anymore. And if you actually believe they give a shit about what they're delivering to you, you haven't been paying attention. All they care about is the message, the political message. Straight white men are bad. All wealthy people are white men. They're bad. All good people are minorities and people of colour. All brave people are women. These are the messages. This has been exposed in the Rings of Power over on Amazon by many, many people. We can all see. And it isn't just men exposing this. It's great people like that Star Wars girl and other females out there as well. So it's not just men like they have you believe. This is where we are now. So instead of moaning and screaming about this daily like some are doing, I've opted out of modern day entertainment content. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not. So that's my little bitch about modern day entertainment. But it's dead, everyone. For me, it's dead. It doesn't have to be dead for you. I'm not here to influence you. I ain't a fucking influencer. I'm just a geek and a nerd. That's it. Let's talk about the reactions to Andor. This is interesting, and this actually confirms my point of what I've just been talking about here in my intro of today's podcast. This is from Sam Hargrave from thedirect.com. It's a pretty good site, but his opinion about the first 4 episodes of Andor has to make me laugh. This is spin. We've actually got critics and Access Media spinning content for Hollywood now. They have become part of the publicity and marketing. These are not proper critics. This isn't Barry Norman, who actually used to speak the fucking truth about television and film. This is bullshit. These people are part of the marketing process. This is outrageous. Just listen to this. Andor is the biggest departure from the Star Wars formula, basically meaning it's not fucking Star Wars. But anyway, from the Star Wars formula yet, and it thrives for it. So in other words, this is not Star Wars, and it thrives for not being Star Wars. It's a dark and mature story of the start of the rebellion, one that may not appeal to all fans. In other words, it's mid, dull, and crap and moody, and we're not going to like it. The visuals are immense. The scope and practical visuals are immense. Perhaps the best looking Disney Plus original yet. Oh my god, like there's a lot of fucking competition for great looking Disney Plus content, and he's saying it's the best looking Disney Plus original yet. I mean, Jesus Christ. So we know that this is a sequel to the prequel Rogue One. Rogue One is basically set after the Star Wars prequels and before the Star Wars original trilogy. So I'm going to read you another reaction, which I think is absolutely hilarious. And this is from King Shield, Steve Weintraub. Steve Weintraub is the King Shield. He's from Collider. He calls himself Collider Frosty. If you want to follow him, just listen to this. I mean, this is hilarious. Have you seen... Sorry, I have seen the first 4 episodes of Andor and loved them. Of course you do. We knew you were going to say you loved them. You love fucking everything, don't you? I'm so tired. Listen to this. I'm so tired of watching the same Star Wars characters and locations. It's so hilarious. It's so hilarious. I'm so tired of watching the same Star Wars characters and locations. And Andor is none of that. No Jedi, right? Which is synonymous with Star Wars, so no Jedi. We don't want that. No lightsabers. He's bragging about no Jedi and lightsabers and saying it's a fucking good thing. No Tatooine, right? They're all fed up of Tatooine all the time. I can live without Tatooine. It's fine, but it don't fucking bug me. What bugs me is creative bankruptcy, not that we're standing on a fucking desert with sand. Tony Gilroy is leading what might end up as my favourite Star Wars series. Well, as I just said earlier, there's not much of a fucking choice, is there, if you're talking about Disney Star Wars? So that's what he had to say. Basically, this is, as I said, a sequel of a prequel, right? It doesn't do anything new. It's stuck in time. It's stuck between the original Star Wars. That's not brave and new. I'm quite happy to see different Star Wars on different planets, on different universes, fighting different villains and monsters and aliens and enemies with new heroes. I'm totally fine with that. But you can't get rid of the Jedi and you can't get rid of the lightsabers because that's synonymous with Star Wars, right? You can't get rid of the Doctor's fucking TARDIS, can you? It's true. You can't stop Sam Beckett from quantum leaping, right? Or it's not quantum leap. They're saying this isn't Star Wars and that's what makes it great. Think about that for a minute. They're saying the stuff that's synonymous with Star Wars isn't there and that makes it great. This isn't bold. This isn't new. It's the same old shit in different wrapping paper, and making it moody and dark really doesn't matter. The day George Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney was a fucking dark day. He made an absolute mistake. He knows he made a mistake. There are only 6 Star Wars films. The prequels, the original trilogy, that's Star Wars. The Clone Wars is Star Wars. And stuff like that. Ahsoka is Star Wars. And look, the side of Disney Star Wars by Filoni and Favreau, for me, is still Star Wars. I love The Mandalorian. But this shit, forget about this shit. The Acolyte, forget about The Acolyte. As far as I'm concerned, it's all shit. And these access media, let's call it marketing, because it's not responses, it's not an independent opinion, it's just so they can keep their access. They are corrupt at the very seams. I'm a huge Quantum Leap fan. I started watching it when the 5th and final season started broadcasting. Then I went back and watched all the other seasons. In fact, I recently completed my rewatch. There is a Quantum Leap revival going on. It begins this month on NBC and on Peacock if you're interested. It's a revival, not a reboot. Now, there's been a lot of rumours. Will Scott Bakula as Sam Beckett return? You know, as far as I'm concerned, Scott Bakula and Dean Stockwell are one of the best on-screen partnerships of all time. Dean is no longer with us, so he couldn't come back anyway. So I've been hearing a few different things, whether he's coming back or not. It's not been sounding good. This is what Scott had to say. It's a Twitter thread. To Quantum Leap fans around the world, in an effort to quiet the rumours and move on, first of all, Scott, no one's ever going to allow you to move on. I respect your stance and your opinion, but you're never going to be allowed to move on. This is the problem with doing revivals instead of reboots. Now, Cobra Kai basically embraced what Karate Kid was and brought back the original cast as older characters with new characters as well, young and old. It works. Now, what the Quantum Leap revival wants to do is ride off the back of the original series, but not use anyone from it. There's the problem. First of all, thanks for hanging around through the decades. Here's the simple version of what's going on with the Quantum Leap reboot and me. Now, he calls it a reboot, but it's actually a revival unless they've changed it. It was originally a revival. Is it now a reboot? Don't know. I shall watch the pilot. If I hate it, that's it for me. So here's the one that's going to break every Quantum Leap fan's heart. I have no connection with the new show, either in front of the camera or behind it. In January, the pilot was sold and a script was sent to me because the character of Sam Beckett was in it, which makes sense, right? As so many of you have been asking me the last several months. So let's go back to this, right? So he says he has no connection to it. He said in January, the pilot was sold and the script was sent to him because the character of Sam Beckett was in it. So the character of Sam Beckett was in it, but he's not anymore. So they're going to mention him. Is this now a reboot? Is this still a revival? Who knows? Which makes sense. So he says that. Several months. How could you do a Quantum Leap without Sam or Al for that matter? Well, I guess we're about to find out. That's the story, as the show has always been near and dear to my heart. It was a very difficult decision to pass on the project. He passed on the project. We'll get into that in a minute, because the question is, and he doesn't clarify this here, why did he pass on this project? Something he says that means a lot to him. Well, of course we know why he passed on the project, even if he never tells us. And I love you, Scott, and I respect your decision. But he's not telling us. He's not clarifying why. So then he says that has upset and confused so many fans of the original series. However, the idea of anyone leaping around in time and walking a mile in someone else's shoes remains a very appealing concept and so worthy of exploration, especially given the current state of mankind. He's got a point there. We don't act like we don't understand what it's like to be someone else, and we just judge them and cancel them, right? He's got a point there. Right, finally he says, in that spirit, I'm crossing my fingers that this new cast and crew are lucky enough to tap into the magic that propelled the original Quantum Leap into the hearts and minds of generations past and present. I wish them good luck and happy leaping. Scott Bakula. So Scott has done nothing wrong here. He's decided to clarify this. The problem is, he's decided to clarify this on the eve of the premiere of the revival reboot. This is very similar to what Peter Jackson did when he revealed that Amazon asked him to be involved and direct several episodes of Rings of Power. He said, I would have to take a look at the scripts, because obviously you would have to. He never got back from them. He never heard back from them. Now, they claimed the story was different, but I believe Peter. But this is interesting. Now, he hasn't really said much about the communications he had with NBC. I think he's working on a series with NBC right now. I don't know if he still is, but he was. He's a big NBC man, NBC Universal. Now, so this is interesting. So I just want to, so I've just seen some fans commenting on this thread. I am sad, no, Scott Baio. I thought it's Scott Baio, the famous actor, but no. I am sad that the original cast is not involved. I am psyched about the reboot, though. Unfortunately, we all know how NBC treats high concept shows. RIP, Timeless, Manifest. This is true. They get them wrong. They fuck them up. It's the point I made about the Knight Rider revival. Now, Sam Beckett's supposed to be in the pilot. I think he's in the pilot as much as David Hasselhoff was in the pilot of the Knight Rider revival, which wasn't very much. They were going to use him for a split minute, and that would have been it. Anyway, as good as it would have been to see him. I think Scott has made the right decision here. So let's have a bit of a discussion about this. Now, I asked a question while I was reading that thread, and I asked, why did he pass on the Quantum Leap pilot? Because it doesn't sound like he was going to play a recurring character. He was just going to be in that pilot. He wouldn't pass on this if it was any good. Clearly, he decided that Sam Beckett throughout those 5 seasons, had a great run. They ended his character in a point that was true to Sam, sacrificing basically his future, but going back to his wife and stuff, sacrificing that for Al. That's so Sam Beckett. And that's why, for me, it was always the perfect ending. And I spoke about this revival months ago and said, I don't want them to Last Jedi Sam Beckett. And clearly, whatever they were doing in that pilot, Scott didn't like and said no to. And very similar to what Peter Jackson was saying, I wish them all the best, I'll be watching it, blah, blah, blah. That's the kind of similar kind of strand that Scott goes on. But of course, he doesn't really feel this way. It's clear to me why he did this, why he clarified his position in the Quantum Leap Revival reboot, whatever it is. And I'm a bit confused now because Scott's calling it a reboot. Maybe that's just a word he used. But I think the timing of this was done purposely, just like what Peter Jackson did. This has been done to damage the reboot revival. It has. I think this is why he's done it. He won't admit to this, but timing is everything. You could say, oh yeah, he's done it to clarify just before it's been released. Maybe the network told him to clarify the position. Now, all I can see from this revival, it looks good. I liked the trailer, but at the end of the day, I'm starting to be a little bit concerned. I can see similar threads here to other NBC pilots, especially the Knight Rider revival. The Knight Rider revival lacked heart and soul and the thing that made the original Knight Rider successful, the relationship between Michael and Kit. And Jesus Christ, they cast Val Kilmer as Kit, one of the best casting decisions of all time. And he was one of the best, if not the best things about the revival. But they didn't get that relationship right. They didn't get the heart of that relationship right. And as I say, Val did a tremendous job. NBC did the Knight Rider revival. NBC are doing the Quantum Leap revival. I see the same problems. So I don't take any issue with Scott. He's not being arrogant. He's not being an arsehole. He's saying, hey, I have to clarify this because a lot of you are confused and upset with me for not being in it. I think Scott should have went a step further and clarified why he passed on the project. Let me give you a comparison. Now, back in the day, a few years ago, Michael Rosenbaum was made an offer to return as Lex Luthor from Smallville on Crisis on Infinite Earths. He said no, but we didn't know he said no until he told us he said no. But differently to what Scott's doing here, he clarified his reasons. He didn't have a script, he didn't know the plot, he didn't know the story, he didn't know where he would have to be, and he didn't know how much he would be getting paid. Michael Rosenbaum, a fucking actor from Hollywood, was honest enough to clarify this situation. He was honest, yes, I want to know how much I'm getting fucking paid. I need to know where I'm going to be to make the shit. I need to know if you're going to shit all over the legacy of the character that we developed over a 7-season timeline on Smallville. And they didn't tell him because he knew it was going to be shit. And when we see what they did to Tom Welling's Clark Kent, removing his powers and making him a fucking house husband and a coward, we knew, and my suspicions were right. This is why I never wanted Berlanti Productions to touch Smallville, and they did. And that was a shame. And I think a former Smallville writer was involved, or a producer on Crisis, or this moment of Crisis, which is very disappointing in itself. So Michael Rosenbaum clarified why he wasn't going to do it. Now Scott has clarified it to a point, but I don't think he's gone deep enough within his clarification. But if he comes out and says, this is why I passed on it, I'm not doing it for this reason, that reason, or the other reason, the fans are not going to get into you. Fans shouldn't get into you anyway. I mean, there should be constructive discourse at the very least. They're fans, they love you, they loved what you did, so they're going to be disappointed. But it's how you show your disappointment. I'm disappointed. I am very disappointed. I was hoping for at least a cameo or two. I wanted the reason for the new character jumping into the Quantum Leap Accelerator, that he's looking for Sam. This could actually now be. We know they actually had to redo the pilot. So maybe now it's a reboot and not a revival for the very reason. Maybe that's why they redid the pilot. because Scott said no and wanted no involvement with it. That kills the show dead. Quantum Leap is gold standard television. This is the way they used to make television, with low budgets, and you could see it sometimes when they were in a car. But the writing, the music, the directing was beautiful. The storytelling, you know, Scott and Dean together were a beautiful thing. This was, you know, the golden age of television. This was back in the day when television didn't have huge budgets. And Quantum Leap is one of the finest 5 years in Hollywood television history. And I don't think you can revive it or reboot it successfully. But then I wouldn't have thought you could reboot, or sorry, no, let's say that again. Revive Karate Kid into a streaming show. A successful streaming show, but that embraces what Karate Kid is. It embraces previous actors. The Quantum Leap revival reboot doesn't want to do that. And clearly they didn't want Scott in full time or to recur. They just wanted him in the pilot, as they did with David Hasselhoff as Michael Knight in the Knight Rider revival pilot. And I definitely think Scott was right to pass on it. I would love to know the reasoning why Scott passed on it. But I agree with his decision, and I just think this revival reboot is going to fail big time, and I was very excited about it originally. One of my reasons, part of the reasoning I have issues with the modern day industry is the incompetence. It's actually the incompetence. It's not the attacks on fans so much, although that's bad and it upsets me. It gives me anxiety and depression. It does. But it's how blatantly incompetent these studios and networks are. Disney removes Star Wars spin-off Rogue Squadron from release calendars, sets, dates for Snow White, Inside Out 2 and Lion King sequel. Now, we don't want to hear about all of this. I want to focus on Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron. But it's decided to freeze. We'll start again. So, very brief but to the point, Variety talk about the details of Rogue Squadron being removed. Now, Rogue Squadron was going to be directed by Patty Jenkins. Yes, a disastrous decision from Kathleen Kennedy, but I'm going to give her some credit after we get the deets. Disney has removed Rogue Squadron, the Star Wars film from director Patty Jenkins, from its release calendar. The move comes as little surprise since the tentpole, which was scheduled for December 2022, December 22nd, 2023, was taking off the studio's production schedule in 2021. The announcement is more or less pro forma, as the window for Rogue Squadron to start filming in time to complete the movie by next December has very nearly closed. The next big screen story in the space opera saga had already been delayed in November 2021, reportedly due to scheduling conflicts with Jenkins. This is not true. Jenkins is lying, Kennedy is lying. Rogue Squadron is never gonna happen, and I'm going to tell you why. Patty Jenkins was tapped to do this movie because Kathleen Kennedy had seen Monster and had seen the first Wonder Woman movie, and anyone who sees that movie and sees the name directed by Patty Jenkins, they're gonna go, fuck me, man, I'm getting this gal on a Star Wars movie. It's part of my propaganda and extremism. I can say, look, yes, she's a woman, but I'm not just bringing her on because she's a woman. And of course, we should be giving talented female directors jobs on Star Wars and other movies. That's not my issue. But they don't care about, you know, employing talented female directors. It's not about that for Kennedy. It's just to create, it's just part of their extremism and part of their fake inclusion and representation. She saw the first Wonder Woman, loved it as we all did. She had no idea that Zack Snyder should have the credit for that film and not Patty Jenkins, so she employed her on that movie. Then Kathleen Kennedy saw Wonder Woman 84, and I can tell you this exclusively, she was fucking horrified. Horrified, I tell you, and she didn't know how to squirm out of having Patty direct the Star Wars film. This was a disaster because this was just prior to, I think, DC Fandom 2021, I think, when this Patty directing this film. was announced, because I think it was prior to Wonder Woman 84 being released. I think it was just about the same time when Wonder Woman 84 was being marketed. So I've got to give Kathleen Kennedy credit here, because she saw a mess, she saw an issue, and instead of allowing her to make the film like Warner Brothers did with Wonder Woman 84, she said, nah, I've had some disasters, but this is going to be a disaster of astronomical proportions. I can't allow this to happen. So credit to Kennedy for binning Rogue Squadron and binning Patty Jenkins, because she's not a good director in terms of blockbusters. She needed a lot of help to complete the first Wonder Woman. That help came from one Zack Snyder and his VFX team and his producers. That is a Zack Snyder film, mostly the first Wonder Woman, and not much to do with Patty Jenkins. She made some decisions. She got her own way in places. She clashed with Snyder as well. And this is the truth. Now, during the marketing of Wonder Woman 84, she started saying several things. She didn't mention Snyder derogatively, but she did mention that she didn't like the idea of severed heads. Snyder did. And stuff like that. She didn't want Wonder Woman to have a shield and a sword, which is a bit like removing the Jedis and the lightsabers from a Star Wars movie or streaming show. It isn't what Wonder Woman is if you remove the sword and the shield. She's clueless. She thinks Wonder Woman is Linda Carter. She's obviously never read a fucking Wonder Woman comic before, right? Or just watched the animation. So, look, Patty Jenkins will never be making Rogue Squadron. She will never make any Star Wars movie. A lot of people being sarcastic about her going back to Wonder Woman 3. Wonder Woman 3, I'm sure, will happen, or maybe it won't happen if they start again. I don't know what's going on with the DCEU, but there's one thing I know for sure. There's no way on earth that Patty Jenkins can direct a Wonder Woman 3. You know, once you see Wonder Woman 84, you should know this woman is not capable of doing Wonder Woman. So don't let her anywhere near a Wonder Woman 3. No. Former Warner Brothers Pictures Group chairman Toby Emmerich gave her a third movie before the other movie even released, or as it was being released. This is the incompetence of this previous leadership. So she's still tapped to do Wonder Woman 3, but it shouldn't happen. It can't happen. It's going to be a disaster. Now, she reckons for the past couple of years she's been writing the script. I don't believe her. I don't believe that they're going to allow her to do a Wonder Woman 3. I think even Emmerich and Hamada were beginning to have their doubts. And I mean, Hamada had many problems with her during Wonder Woman 84 as well. But it's clear to me that allowing her to do Wonder Woman 3 was an Emmerich decision and not a Hamada decision. So she cannot make the third movie. I don't think Zaslav, with the way he's been conducting himself, is going to allow her anywhere near another Wonder Woman movie. And all we can do is pray to whatever we believe in, and let's just hope it doesn't happen. The term toxic fandom is an easy term to use. If you ever want to dismiss or just try and make what someone is saying on social media not sound relevant or important, or that it's in any universal fact whatsoever, you just say, oh, you're just a toxic fan. People do it all the time. Hollywood do it all the time. Now, artist Jay Oliver has come out to speak about the Restore the Snyderverse movement. Now, Jay Oliver worked on Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Zack Snyder's Justice League. He's pretty much Zack Snyder's personal artist. He's working on his Netflix movies, Rebel Moon. He's been working on all the Army of the Dead stuff as well. So Jay Oliver used to come onto Twitter to kind of expose Snyder haters, and we all had a laugh. Well done, Jay. Well done for doing that. Ha ha ha. Now he's come out to criticize the Restore the Snyderverse movement, and he's talking about the reputation about it in Hollywood and how the Snyderverse will never be restored while it's got this reputation because of a toxic feud, according to him. His words, not mine. Here's the problem. Jay Oliver is clearly speaking for Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder is clearly under pressure from Netflix, and maybe this is hurting his career now because of the reputation of his fans, and he's trying to get people to calm the fuck down. This is, of course, caused the opposite effect. The problem is with people like Jay and others from Hollywood, they have foot and mouth syndrome. They don't know when to shut up. They're all about ego and self-importance. He's telling us, the good fans, to clean up the rep of the fandom. We can't do that. Mud sticks. We are always going to be deemed as a toxic fandom. And it's simply not true. I was one of the people fighting to release the Snyder Cut. And I've met so many lovely people on the internet who support Zack Snyder. There was the couple who used to watch my videos when I was talking about release the Snyder Cut while they were having their breakfast over in the good old US of A. You know, and many people that I've met, good people. Most of the people in this fandom are brilliant, beautiful souls. But it's interesting that Zack Snyder has supported a lot of toxic YouTubers that attack fans and are very toxic to people like myself at times. He's supported these people. He's gone on to Grace Randolph's YouTube channel because it was about getting the views so he could promote Zack Snyder's Justice League. I understand that, but he has supported toxic individuals, toxic fans. When those toxic fans were exposing Emmerich and Jeff Johns, he was fine with that toxicity. In fact, Zack Snyder attacked a journalist on Twitter. You know, you're actually encouraging toxic fandom, surely, Zack. And, you know, Scott Mendelson, that's the guy, that's the journalist he attacked. And he said live, or he said it on a podcast or whatever, or it was on a TV interview, he goes, "Suck it, Warner Brothers." This is basically egging on, you know, low-educated people to act in the same way. And you've got the cheek to call out so-called toxic fandom. And this is my problem. This is part of the hypocrisy that really pisses me off with modern-day entertainment. They hate their own customers. Now, Zack Snyder in the past has been supportive of his fans, but obviously the heat is on and he needs them to calm down for the sake of his career. I don't agree with toxicity and bullying. Sometimes passion spills over. It's not okay. Of course not. But it's also not okay to be part of an industry that's part of organised crime, molestation, child abuse, drug trafficking, you name it. They're smuggling people, right? They're doing lots of different things in Tinseltown. It's a criminal organisation. I'm not saying everyone is bad in that town and is involved in criminal activity. But we know what goes on there. So how dare you have a go at your customers for losing their cool now and again when you are part of such a corrupt industry? A corrupt industry. And Jay, you're part of that industry. I'm not saying for one moment that you're part of the criminal fraternity of that industry, but you know what goes on there. But you've got a cheek about telling us to clean up this fandom. This fandom is a pure fandom. There's a few people that make it look bad, I agree. But they don't live down the road to me. I can't go down there and go, all right, if you don't stop embarrassing us, right, there'll be a bit of a problem. Me and Ron ain't going to be happy. We can't do that, right? So we can't clean it up. And blaming people just basically creates more toxicity, Jay. In a way, it's like he's saying the Snyderverse isn't going to be restored and it's your fault. It's the fans' fault. No, it's not, Jay. No, it's not. We didn't run the old leadership of Warner Brothers. We didn't ask them to bring in Zack for a mainstream DC franchise, which was never going to work. As much as I love his DC content, it was never going to work. It was a bad idea. I didn't tell Zack not to compromise at all with the studio, not to sit down with them and say, right, I want this, I want that, but maybe we can do this. Maybe we can come to some arrangement. Maybe the colour palettes can be a little bit brighter. Not totally. Maybe we can have the odd gag, right? Maybe there could have been a compromise. I don't know. That's not the fans' fault. We fought for our director. We fought for his vision, right? And most of us did it in a pure way. So blaming us because Restore the Snyderverse isn't going to happen, Jay, says something about you. And I love you. And it says something about Zack, who I also love, because you're starting to blame the fans for your own incompetence and failures. This has been the Movies TV Mad podcast here on Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection, and I'll see you in the next video. Just because I'm disillusioned with modern day entertainment doesn't mean you have to. I'm not trying to influence you or anything. I'm just telling you my stance. I think you're here to watch the video, so clearly you care about what I have to say. I think the industry is in a really bad way. Some people, the Phantom Menace, believe there's no way back. I believe there is a way back. And you need to bring in the people who cared about the soul of making illusions and great stories. Bring back the people who cared about stories, who cared when they made Home Alone 2, the beautiful John Hughes with that beautiful soul, Chris Columbus directing both the Home Alone movies, Ghost, etc. I could go on all day. We need to bring those people back and just phase out these political extremists. It's going to be a very hard thing to do because the entertainment industry is flooded with these extremists now. I hope we can save this industry because it was a beautiful industry once and it can be again. See you again soon. Thank you for watching.